suspect in the fatal shootings of 2 upstate New York firefighters is revealed to be a convicted killer, a felon who was banned from legally owning a gun.
Catholics around the world turn their eyes to Rome, where Pope Benedict XVI presides over Christmas Eve Mass at St. Peter's Basilica at the Vatican.
And NATO troops stationed in Afghanistan celebrate the holiday with a special Christmas meal and candlelight service in Kabul. We'll have those stories and much more coming up next on our special Christmas edition of Ebru Today.
Welcome to Ebru Today. Merry Christmas to you and yours. We bring the world to your world. I'm Brian Jenkins.
We sure do, and I'm Francesca Maxime. From all of us here at Ebru Today and Ebru News, we wish you all a very Merry Christmas. And our program this morning will bring you a wide variety of images from Christmas celebrations all over the world. But first, we'll start with the latest updates on that tragic event in upstate New York.
Yeah, a horrible way to start Christmas Day. A former convict kills 2 firefighters in what appears to have been an ambush. The scene, Webster, New York, where again a man legally prohibited from buying guns somehow gets a hold of a rifle and carries out a senseless attack, taking innocent lives. The fire, set in one house, which spread to several others, was intentionally set, according to fire investigators, to lure firefighters to the scene. The gunman, armed with a rifle, then laid in wait.
The responding firefighters, when they pulled up on the scene, were fired upon by one or more shooters. 4 of the firefighters were shot, 2 were deceased, 2 were transported to area hospitals.
The gunman then exchanged shots with police before finally turning his gun on himself. During the shooting, police used an armored vehicle to evacuate surrounding residents.
And it's a shock that something like this would happen, but for some reason, violence is rearing its ugly head in this community, everywhere.
Turns out the suspect, 62-year-old William Spengler, had served 17 years in prison for beating his 92-year-old grandmother to death in 1980. Authorities say he was paroled in 1998 and had led a quiet life since, living with his mother and sister in the house he set fire to. Police didn't immediately know a motive. They said Spengler's mother died in October and that his 67-year-old sister, Cheryl Spengler, was still unaccounted for. That fire he set destroyed 7 homes. Police have yet to determine whether there are more victims. Well, there's certain to be fallout beyond the initial crime. Convicted felons are not allowed to possess weapons. Coming on the heels of the Connecticut school massacre, where a crazed gunman killed 26 children and teachers, this is certain to fuel efforts in Washington to enact more gun control.
And to the Vatican now. Pope Benedict XVI presided over Christmas Eve Mass at St. Peter's Basilica Monday. A smiling 85-year-old Benedict, dressed in gold-colored vestments, waved to onlookers, snapping photos as he came up the center aisle of St. Peter's on a wheeled platform guided by white-gloved aides. As a men's choir chanted, Benedict sprinkled incense around the altar and wished the faithful peace in Latin. During his speech, he asked whether people the world over will find room in their hectic, technology-driven lives for children, the poor, and God. The pontiff also prayed that Israelis and Palestinians live in peace and freedom. He also asked the faithful to pray for Syria, Lebanon, and Iraq. A few hours before Mass, Benedict lit a Christmas peace candle and set it upon the windowsill of his studio window overlooking St. Peter's Square. The ceremony began at 10 o'clock Monday night. Instead of the traditional midnight start time, the schedule was changed at the Vatican years ago to let the pontiff rest. The Pope will deliver a Christmas Day speech today from the Basilica's central balcony.
International troops in Afghanistan celebrated Christmas Eve in Kabul with a special Christmas meal and a candlelight service. A much-deserved break, and Erin Aid is here to tell us more about it.
Much deserved. Now, at the Kabul International Airport, U.S. and other NATO country soldiers took a break from the front lines to share a little bit of holiday spirit.
This job comes with a price, and many of the soldiers, they realize that price. So even though we like to be with our families, we realize the importance of what we're doing here, and we believe in it.
Men and women in Kabul's U.S.-led coalition base dined among decorative paper snowmen, Christmas trees, and Santa Clauses, while underneath them, their weapons temporarily rest, tucked beneath their seats. Spanish soldiers were on guard outside the high-security compound at the Kabul International Airport.
Yeah, I feel a little homesick. I wish I could, be with family and friends. It's a time of the year where everybody gets together, enjoys being together pretty much.
American troops are serving their 12th Christmas in Afghanistan this year, with approximately 66,000 troops currently serving in Afghanistan. Kabul International Airport is home to multinational NATO country members who are serving under the NATO banner in Afghanistan. NATO troops remain committed to helping Afghan forces assume full responsibility for the country's security after 2014.
Well, thanks, Aaron. The community of Newtown, Connecticut is still in healing over the elementary school massacre that took so many innocent lives. The town continues to receive an outpouring of messages of support and sorrow as its citizens observe Christmas.
It's been 10 days after the elementary school massacre that claimed the lives of 20 first graders and 6 teachers and administrators. At the town hall, strangers delivered hundreds of handmade cards and snowflakes collected as they toured the state in a chartered bus. The town hall has become a gathering point for those dropping off donations and in need of a place to congregate and find comfort in one another. Paula Pike said her thoughts are with all the parents who lost a child.
How do you get through Christmas? What happens if that next weekend was that Saturday was the day they were going to take him to see Santa? Or what happens if the last Saturday was the day you took him to see Santa and that's the last picture you have?
Newtown resident Steve Fisher says he doesn't think the town will ever really get over it.
I don't think this will ever go away. We'll just somehow move on and just remember all these little kids and the great teachers that were there to support them.
The attack has galvanized the gun control debate in the United States, where the Constitution protects possession of firearms. President Barack Obama is expected to propose steps next month to tighten gun laws. Wayne LaPierre, the head of the hugely influential U.S. gun lobby, the NRA, defended his call for armed guards in all schools, despite withering criticism of the group's response to the Newtown massacre.
Well, India has agreed to buy dozens of Russian military helicopters and kits for the assembly of dozens of jets at a summit in New Delhi. Leaders of both countries reaffirmed their commitment to a strategic partnership.
India agreed to buy dozens of Russian military helicopters and kits for the assembly of Sukhoi jets at a summit in New Delhi today, where the leaders of both countries reaffirmed their commitment to a strategic partnership. Russia will sell India 71 military helicopters worth $1.3 billion, as well as technological kits worth $1.6 billion to assemble 42 fighter jets. India's foreign ministry said the original deal for these jets was agreed to last year.
Our science and technology cooperation remains robust. President Putin and I welcome the operationalization of the India-Russia Joint Science and Technology Centers in India and Russia, which can assist the development and commercialization of promising technologies, including the nanotechnology, biomedicine, and supercomputing. I particularly welcome the agreement on cooperation in using the GLONASS satellite navigation system that has just been signed.
India, traditionally one of Moscow's top arms clients, said the two sides would also set up a joint venture to manufacture Russian-model helicopters and a $2 billion fund to invest in trade and economic cooperation projects. Russian President Vladimir Putin is visiting India to seal the deal on the sales. Putin's one-day trip, his first to India since he started a new Kremlin 6-year term in May, underlines Russia's interest in India, long a regional ally and now a partner in the BRICS group of emerging market nations. The volume of Russia's bilateral trade with India was expected to reach a record $10 billion this year, after declining due to the global financial crisis, and set a target of doubling that to $20 billion by 2015.
All right, so now we're going to have a look at all of today's newspapers. Brian is over at the Live Touch with a look at what the foreign press is covering. Merry Christmas, Brian.
Well, Merry Christmas to you, Francesca. And of course, big news over there in Russia with that arms deal, and it is front and center of the Moscow Times. The Kremlin and India strike a big weapons deal over technology and fighter jets, helicopters, $2.9 billion worth of military technology sold to Russia. A Merry Christmas for Russian weapons manufacturers. Also there in Russia, there's a nice look at ornament there on a big tree. Russian language textbooks stir controversy. A popular book called Let's Go contains passages extolling the virtues of drug use and crime, creating what some call a moronic impression of Russians. Russian lawmakers want that book banned. We'll keep an eye out for that. In The Hindu in India, let's try it. There we go. Crackdown on mutes protest. Now, these protests have been going on for the last several weeks at major roads and metro stations. They are now shut down. Police have contained those massive protests. Again, crowds angered over the gang rape of a student on a train. Protesters want safer public passage for women and justice for victims of sexual assault. We'll keep our eyes on that as well. Ironically, though, women's groups there oppose the death penalty, even as a public chorus rises in favor of using the death penalty as a deterrent to a series of rapes. We'll keep our eyes on that too. Bali Times. In Bali, here's an interesting story right here. Customs officers foil a holiday attempt to smuggle drugs into Bali. That's a German man arrested for swallowing 22 capsules of hashish and inserting other capsules into body orifices. He was caught at the airport there. He'll be spending the holidays and many more days behind bars. On a positive note, British billionaire Richard Branson to be Air Asia stewardess. Well, looked rather strange in a skirt. Performing duties serving passengers as a result of losing a bet with airline founders at a local Grand Prix. And of course, Branson will have to pay his debt. We'll check out the China Daily real quick for a couple of headlines. Big picture of Christmas celebrations there. A draft law to protect personal privacy. This is a new piece of legislation designed to help web users protect privacy. Supporters say theft and illegal trading of information must be checked, and that is their way of doing it in China. Also an interesting story here, bed warmers becoming a hot item in a very cold climate there. People are bypassing electric heaters for old-fashioned bed warmers. Bronze pots that can be filled with hot water, then sealed. They're doing a roaring trade, and they're also lining up at spring resorts to use hot springs, almost anything that's cheap to use to stay warm. That's what's happening around the world. Back to you, Francesca.
What happened to the good old electric blanket?
Yeah, well, you know what? They've bypassed those along with the electric heater. Go figure.
Yeah, we're going old school.
Yeah.
All right, Brian, thanks so much. Well, still ahead on Every Today, when the fin of a great white shark is spotted close to shore, new safety measures are taken in South Africa to prevent shark attacks. And to Mexico City now, the government there has come up with a successful way to get people to turn in their guns. And two beloved character actors have passed away. We'll take a look back at their iconic careers when Ebru Today, this Christmas edition, returns. Stay with us. Today, and Merry Christmas to you. Well, American pop culture has lost two of its most recognizable character actors. Jack Klugman, best known as the messy sports writer Oscar Madison in TV's The Odd Couple, died on Monday, December 24th at the age of 90.
And Charles Durning from such movies as Tootsie and The Sting also passed away yesterday at the age of 89. Aaron Aid has a look at their lives and careers. Aaron, they had just long and distinguished careers.
Yes, it's sad stuff on this Christmas day. Jack Klugman was the prolific, craggy-faced character actor and regular guy who was loved by millions on The Odd Couple and Quincy Emmy. Charles Durning, on the other hand, graced the silver screen in the Muppets movie and as Chief Brandon in Dick Tracy. And they will both be remembered and missed on this Christmas day.
You know. Were you in the room when the father was killed? This fighting.
Jack Klugman, who lost his voice to throat cancer in the 1980s and trained himself to speak again, died with his wife by his side. He apparently died suddenly on Monday, and family members were not sure of the exact cause. The son of Russian Jewish immigrants, he was born in Philadelphia and began his acting career in college drama at the Carnegie Institute of Technology. After serving in the Army during World War II, he went on to summer stock and off-Broadway, rooming with fellow actor Charles Bronson as they both looked for paying jobs. Klugman made his Broadway debut in 1952 in a revival of Golden Boy and received a Tony nomination for Gypsy. His film credits include Sidney Lumet's 12 Angry Men and Blake Edwards' Days of Wine and Roses. An early television highlight was appearing with Humphrey Bogart in a production of The Petrified Forest. Charles Durning, on the other hand, was born into poverty in New York. Durning was one of the first U.S. soldiers on Omaha Beach during World War II's D-Day invasion. He was his unit's lone survivor of a Nazi machine gun ambush and later survived a German massacre of American POWs. Durning said his memory of killing an attacking soldier in hand-to-hand combat never left him. Durning received numerous Oscar, Tony, and Emmy Award nominations. He's best known for his performances in The Sting, Dog Day Afternoon, The Muppet Movie, and Tootsie, among many others. Two amazing talents who entertained generations. So, you guys, what was your favorite movies?
You know, I love Klugman. I remember him from the old Twilight Zone series.
Oh, yeah. I'm not so sure about that one for me, but The Odd Couple, is it The Odd Couple,
yes,
right?
Yes.
The Odd Couple, and then, of course, The Muppet Movie. Who could forget that?
Who could forget The Muppet Movie?
All right. A new year coming soon. Sad news from China this morning. 11 children were killed on Monday after a minivan plunged into a pond in East China's Shaanxi province. 15 kindergartners, one teacher, and a driver were all in the van when the accident happened. Local authorities say the 11 children killed were 8 boys and 3 girls, just 4 to 6 years old. 4 other children who were injured are in stable condition. Rescuers pumped out pond water 3 to 4 meters deep until late Monday to make sure that there were no other victims. A man who lives nearby saw the accident happen, rushed to the pond barefoot, and paddled a boat to the sinking vehicle. He then managed to save 2 children and a teacher through one of the van's windows. Police have detained the driver for questioning.
Mexico City begins offering cash, toys, and computer equipment in exchange for guns in a neighborhood where a 10-year-old boy was killed by a stray bullet at a movie theater. The program is called For Your Family, Volunteer Disarmament. It allows people to turn in their weapons anonymously without being charged with illegal possession. Borough President Jesus Valencia tweeted on Monday that residents have already returned 22 rifles and 65 pistols. Officials say they expect to collect up to 1,800 weapons by the end of 2013. Children can also exchange toy guns for non-violent toys. It's the first phase of the program. It began yesterday and runs through December 31st of this year. The second phase will run throughout 2013 and will be administered in Mexico City's 16 boroughs.
Well, to South Africa now. They have stepped up safety measures at the southwestern False Bay beaches in an effort to prevent potential shark attacks.
We keep the humans safe, and we also keep sharks safe as well, because once there is a shark attack, you get people that will still want to go out and kill sharks. So if you try and prevent shark attacks, that doesn't happen.
Well, a total of 12 great white sharks were spotted off the shore of the Seaside Resort over the weekend, which put beachgoers on alert. The Shark Spotters program, launched December 15th, now covers 8 beaches around the False Bay. Each time a shark is spotted, a siren goes off and a white flag sporting a black shark is raised to alert all those in the water. Swimmers are not allowed back in the sea until an all-clear signal is given.
In the latest news from Hollywood, The Hobbit retains its box office crown for a second week, overpowering Tom Cruise's latest film, Jack Reacher.
The dwarfs and elves of The Hobbit overpowered Tom Cruise to take the box office title for a second time, grabbing $37.5 million in U.S. and Canadian ticket sales over the weekend. The Hobbit is the first of 3 films based on the classic novel set in the fantasy world of Middle-earth. The films are prequels to the blockbuster Lord of the Rings franchise that brought in box office gold a decade ago. Cruise's crime drama, Jack Reacher, a film about a fatal sniper attack, landed in second place with $15.5 million. Over the weekend, Jack Reacher debuted just days after the Newtown, Connecticut school shooting sparked a new debate about the impact of movie violence. Reacher begins with a sniper killing a handful of seemingly random victims. A red carpet premiere and a screening to promote the $60 million production were postponed after the school shooting tragedy. Before the weekend, the studio had predicted sales of 12 to 15 million. Comedy The Guilt Trip, starring Barbara Streisand and Seth Rogen as a mother and son on a cross-country drive, pulled in $5.5 million over the weekend. And in 5 theaters in New York and Los Angeles, the thriller Zero Dark 30, the film about the hunt for Osama bin Laden, grossed $410,000 in what box office analysts are calling a huge limited release start for the film. The movie, considered an Oscar contender, will expand nationwide on January 11th.
We're still no closer to
Time now for a look at what's making headlines in today's domestic papers. Francesca's over the live touch with a little bit of that. Francesca?
Well, good morning, Brian. And, we have some sad news out of Texas as well. I know you were earlier reporting on the sad news out of upstate New York with the shooting there and the fire. But looking at the Houston Chronicle, we start with the story of a police officer and a bystander shot and killed in a deadly confrontation Monday morning. This right down here, you can see police are investigating this incident. The 21-year-old suspect, who had been pulled over for a routine traffic stop, was shot during a gunfight with officers. Left dead was a 53-year-old veteran of the force. Jimmy Norman, also wounded, was the owner of a nearby body shop who had emerged to see what was going on. Now to the Dallas Morning News. Staying in Texas, the Dallas Morning News reports that some likely budget options are emerging on the fiscal cliff. That's over here on the right-hand side. And President Obama and Congress will return to Washington later on this week, right after Christmas, really, and still nobody knows whether they will reach an agreement. Independent Senator Joe Lieberman of Connecticut says that he feels like they will still be debating the issue on New Year's Eve itself. It is speculated there could be 4 outcomes: no deal at all, the elusive big deal, consideration of legislation that one's chambers already has passed, or a small time buying agreement that would further require some more talks. If no changes are adopted, Bush-era income tax cuts will expire at the end of the year. On January 2nd, about $10 billion in automatic spending cuts would take effect, half of those in defense spending alone. On to Chicago now, where we may, although she's lovely too, she's an Irish immigrant, she's about 90 years old, and we're going to talk though about the Obama Library, or the potential Obama Library. In the Chicago Tribune reports the city is already considering having Mr. Obama's library built there in an area near the South Lakefront. Every president since Herbert Hoover has established an archive in his home state to house papers from his White House tenure. That means the race could come down to Chicago, where Obama calls home, and not in the White House, or Honolulu, where he was born. Up to the Northwest, the Pacific Northwest. I love this picture. I think it's adorable. Check this one out. From Despair to Hope, detailing the Atlantic Street Shelter, which helps families who have endured war and poverty. They cater to children to make puppets and give puppet shows as part of their Family Time program. The center is a century old and offers mental health counseling for people affected by post-traumatic stress disorder, as well as academic help for students. But you can see they're playing with some of the puppets that they made. Totally adorable. And to the Los Angeles Times, one more cute kid for you. She's adorable. It is Christmas after all, so go ahead and take a bow. That is a bough from a tree, not a bow. A Christmas tree is a luxury if you can't pay the rent, though. That's why families like this little girl's were thrilled to receive a Christmas tree from the Delancey Street Foundation, which gives away the trees left on its 6 LA lots. It is certainly not really Christmas without a tree, so we're glad that these kids could enjoy the good cheer, and a Merry Christmas to you. Hopefully your tree is up and there were plenty of presents underneath it for all the kids to unwrap this morning.
Yeah, very nice touch for those kids. Thanks, Fran. Coming up on Emerald today, Palestinian President Mahmoud Abbas attends midnight mass in Bethlehem. And our special guests tell us about the Newark Interfaith Coalition and their recent trip to Israel. Stay with us. And now let's take a 60-second look at some of the Christmas Day stories taking place around the world.
In Iraq, dozens of families arrived for the Christmas morning service at the Virgin Mary Church in Baghdad. Worshippers were searched by armed police before they were allowed to enter the church. In Russia Monday, Muscovites celebrated with a parade for Father Frost in Gorky Park. After greeting revelers, Father Frost boarded a double-decker bus to tour around the city. Christmas masses and celebrations were held at several churches in Istanbul. At the Church of St. Antoine, a large crowd attended a evening mass service illuminated by Christmas trees covered in blue lights. In Syria, the streets of Damascus were empty. There were no lights. Christmas Eve Mass was held in churches throughout the city at 5 p.m. and not at midnight for security reasons. In Australia, Father Christmas delivered presents to young patients at Brisbane's Royal Children's Hospital. Hundreds of volunteers handed out free Christmas meals to more than 600 homeless, elderly, and needy people.
In other news, Palestinian President Mahmoud Abbas was among hundreds of people who attended a midnight mass at St. Catherine's Church in Bethlehem. St. Catherine sits next to the 4th century Church of the Nativity, built over the grotto where tradition says Jesus was born. During his annual address, Latin Patriarch of Jerusalem, Fuad Tual, the top Roman Catholic cleric in the Holy Land, asked all good people and politicians to work together for peace in the Middle East. In his pre-Christmas homily, Tual said the road to actual freedom was still long, but that this year's festivities were doubly joyful due to the birth of the State of Palestine. The United Nations General Assembly recently upgraded the Palestinian status to that of a non-member observer state.
Well, it may be Christmas, right? But it is not just a time for Christians. It's a time to celebrate all faiths and to learn more about different religions.
Interfaith outreach, as it's called, has become the cornerstone for greater understanding and for conflict resolution. To help us here with what's going on in that regard, Rabbi Matthew Gewirtz and Iman W. Dean Sharif, both part of the Newark Interfaith Coalition for Hope and Peace. Thank you, gentlemen, for coming on board today.
Good morning.
Let's talk about that trip. This was huge. Why did you go?
It was huge. The three of us, as one missing a bishop who's busy preaching this morning, have been together to reduce gang violence in Newark for almost 5 years now. But we'd always find that whenever we were in public, especially the two of us, no matter what the subject, someone would say, well, what do you think about the Middle East? Because that was always what they wanted to know about. So finally, about a year ago, we said, why don't we go? We're in real relationship with each other. It's not a make-believe. You find three people from different clergy groups going to Israel, but we're actually going to say, let's go with respective members of our own faith groups. Let's go there in real dialogue. Let's go there and unpack the conflict and see what we could take back from it and apply it back to our situation in Newark.
Well, what did you really expect to get, and what did you come away with? What are some of the learning lessons that you found?
I think one of the things is that Israel-Palestine represents traditions that both of us have, that all three of us have in common. We have historical sites and we have religious sites in that area that members of our congregations and communities traditionally want to go see and visit. So there is an aspiration there religiously for us to go. At the same time, there are social issues that I think parallel some of the social issues in regard to conflict, in regard to violence, in regard to the threat to lives of children and families that also relate to the lives of those people that are in the inner city. And what we wanted to do is find out if there's something that we could share with respect to the things that are going on with respect to the coalition, what we're doing in the inner city of Newark, as well as what those organizations in Israel and Palestine are doing in order to bring people together to also find reconciliation and develop peace within their own communities.
Sure. There have been women's groups, I think for the last couple of years now, and many of them are from families that have been affected, who've lost lives on both sides, Palestinian and Jewish, who've come together from both sides of the border and have been lobbying for peaceful efforts. Is that something you came across while you were there and something that you think might be applicable here?
Not just women's groups, but now they brought together something called the Bereaved Family Circle, which are people who have lost members of their direct family from either side of the conflict, a sibling, a parent, a child. And these are people that you would think, and rightly so, should have the most legitimate reason to want to go at it, to want to have a sense of revenge.
You killed mine, I'll kill yours.
Exactly right, but counterintuitively, they've come together. One great story from an Israeli father who lost his daughter said, his first stage was, I'm going to kill myself because I cannot live in a world without my daughter. Second stage was, no, I'm not going to kill myself, but I'm a sharpshooter. I'm going to go to a place where I know Palestinians work, and I can get 5 of them before someone gets me. And on his way to the site, he says, he stops, hysterically cries, and says, I can't do this. If I take out 5 of the other side, I'm going to create 5 more of me. And that changed his whole life. And then he decided that step 3 was to come together with those on the other side who experienced exactly the same. And now they have, I think, a group, Dean, of 600 people from both sides, who, by the way, have also resulted in 1.8 million conversations they've set up through the telephone system of Palestinians on one side and Israelis on the other side. That's 1/3 of Israeli society has now talked to the other side about anything from peace to what they cook for dinner.
Right. Do you find that most people are really seeking peace and would really want peace, but they just don't know how to get there?
I think the people on the ground definitely want to achieve peace, and I think the conversations that we've had with organizations that bring people together, that are grassroots people that live in the same environment together, I think those are the people that are looking for avenues that will give them an opportunity to know each other and work with each other. For example, there was one organization called Shatil, which was an organization, non-governmental organization, that is bringing children together, bringing people together, and young children are having the opportunity to learn together, to get to know each other. And when you start at that age, that's the age that ultimately you can really start to plant some seeds of peace. And I think there lies the opportunity for organizations like that to really change the culture, change the environment, and ultimately those seeds will blossom into fruits of peace and paradise within that area.
You have perhaps a strength in the Middle East in that you have a lot of this is fueled by religious differences, but you don't have that in the city of Newark. A different set of dynamics. How do you apply what you've seen and learned there to what goes on in New Jersey?
I think the beauty of Newark is that you do have this diversity that exists in Newark. You do have the city of Newark historically is a religious city. It has a strong root in terms of its religious base. And so which is one of the reasons why we felt that forming this coalition in the city of Newark would be an instrument that would develop peace, because you have people that are connected to various churches, various synagogues, and various mosques in the city of Newark. Now, the interesting part about the city of Newark is the fact that although you have this gang-related violence, many of those gang members are also connected to churches, or they're connected to mosques, right? Their parents may be connected to churches, or they may be connected to mosques. So if we can begin to shape a dialogue that ultimately would remind those members of those gangs about their moral consciousness and bring them back to perhaps a culture that they left, perhaps there might be something that would be triggered that would bring them, that would enable them to leave the violence and come back to a society that ultimately would give them an opportunity to live in peace.
Well, what might be the biggest obstacle there? Is it a potential perceived betrayal of their respective tribe, if you will, whatever that is, or is it something else?
See, I think, and I add to Dean, that because we're not politicians, we're more palatable. And they look at us and they actually don't quite understand who it is that we are and what it is that we're doing, because we come in, we're not trying to proselytize, we're not trying to get anything from anyone, we're just trying to say that we have enough that is the same about us, and what's the same is that we want to reduce gang violence, we want to support and protect our children, and we want to build our communities. So the tribalism that you might be referring to, you might be able to apply to the fact that they're different gangs, but different gangs aren't made up of different religious differences or political differences. They're made up of turf differences. And by the way, our goal has not been to rid the city of gangs, but instead to change their focus. These gangs have come together because they produce a social fabric that the country might not think deserves to exist. But the bottom line is that since there aren't whole family units, these are families sometimes. Right. So the goal is to rid them of guns and of drugs and things of that sort, but not to rid themselves of the family fabric that really helps give people a sense of integrity and honor.
I want to get back to the trip real quick. What did you see there that you didn't expect?
Well, I think the first experience that we had is coming into the airport. When we arrived in Tel Aviv, 2 of the members of our group were detained going through customs, and the 2 were 2 women from our mosque, and they were probably 2 of the gentlest women that you could ever think of. And so the interesting part about it is that when they were detained, the entire group of 35, right, was willing to stay at the airport until they were released. And I think the bonding that took place as a result of those 2 actually being detained lasted throughout the entire trip, because it brought us together with a genuine concern for 2 people that ultimately brought us all together. And I think that spirit is what really kind of ignited the whole bonding of the entire group.
I would even add that we came in with presumptuous narratives of the other. So yes, that first day we stood in the airport with each other, but what's as important is that we realized the narrative that we presumed of the other, A, is more complicated, and B, because we sort of resolved that out with each other, we also have stayed close to each other. So we've been home for 2 months now. This morning was a great example. This morning the emails went out all over the place to our Christian brothers and sisters. Merry Christmas. Hanukkah, the same thing happened. During Juma, just the regular Friday, we're constantly inviting each other and constantly connecting with one another. And by the way, we've also added from that trip about 25 new lieutenants, I'll call them, in our coalition against gang violence in Newark.
Working together to promote a mentoring program, working together to promote a reconciliation program. So we have initiated these programs that ultimately we hope will impact the lives of those people in Newark.
For sure, and you know, it really is an amazing trip and an amazing story and amazing work that you're doing in Newark, and we hope that you can maybe go back again someday and you know, have another trip in the future. But thank you so much for coming here and joining us on Ebru Today.
It's our pleasure. Thank you.
Thank you.
Straight ahead on Ebru Today, in New York, a convict starts a house fire and then begins shooting at firefighters, killing 2 of them. Pope Benedict XVI conducts Christmas Eve Mass. We'll take a look at that ceremony. And troops in Afghanistan celebrate Christmas with a special meal and church service. We'll have that and a whole lot more when Ebru Today continues. A convicted felon kills 2 firefighters in what appears to have been an ambush.
Such a terrible scene in Webster, New York, where again a man legally prohibited from buying guns somehow gets a hold of a rifle and carries out a senseless attack, taking innocent lives.
The fire, set in one house, which spread to several others, was intentionally set, according to fire investigators, to lure firefighters to the scene. The gunman, armed with a rifle, then laid in wait.
The responding firefighters, when they pulled up on the scene, started receiving, were fired upon by 1 or more shooters. 4 of the firefighters were shot, 2 were deceased. 2 were transported to area hospitals.
The gunman then exchanged shots with police before finally turning his gun on himself. During the shooting, police used an armored vehicle to evacuate surrounding residents.
And it's a shock that something like this would happen, but for some reason violence is rearing its ugly head in this community, everywhere.
Turns out the suspect, 62-year-old William Spengler, had served 17 years in prison for beating his 92-year-old grandmother to death in 1980. Authorities say he was paroled in 1998 and had led a quiet life since, living with his mother and sister in the house he set fire to. Police didn't immediately know a motive. He said Spangler's mother died in October and that his 67-year-old sister, Cheryl Spangler, was still unaccounted for. That fire, he said, destroyed 7 homes. Police have yet to determine whether there are more victims. And there's certain to be fallout beyond the initial crime. Convicted felons are not allowed to possess weapons. And coming on the heels of the Connecticut school massacre just weeks ago, where a crazed gunman killed 26 children and teachers, this is certain to fuel efforts in Washington to enact more gun control.
Well, over to Europe now, to the Vatican, where Pope Benedict XVI presided over a Christmas Eve Mass at St. Peter's Basilica Monday.
A smiling 85-year-old Benedict, dressed in gold-colored vestments, waved to onlookers, snapping photos as he came up the center aisle of St. Peter's on a wheeled platform guided by white-gloved aides. As a men's choir chanted, Benedict sprinkled incense around the altar and wished the faithful peace in Latin. During his speech, he asked whether people the world over will find room in their hectic, technology-driven lives for children, the poor, and God. The pontiff also prayed that Israelis and Palestinians live in peace and freedom. He also asked the faithful to pray for Syria, Lebanon, and Iraq. A few hours before Mass, Benedict lit a Christmas peace candle and set it upon the windowsill of his studio window overlooking St. Peter's Square. The ceremony began at 10 o'clock Monday night. Instead of the traditional midnight start time, the schedule was changed at the Vatican years ago to let the pontiff rest. The Pope will deliver a Christmas Day speech today from the Basilica's central balcony.
International troops in Afghanistan celebrated Christmas Eve in Kabul with a special Christmas meal and a candlelight service. Erin Aid has some of the details on what they encountered.
That's right, Brian. Now, at the Kabul International Airport, U.S. and other NATO country soldiers took a break from the front lines to share in a little holiday spirit.
This job comes with a price, and many of the soldiers, they realize that price. So even though we like to be with our families, we realize the importance of what we're doing here, and we believe in it.
Men and women in Kabul's U.S.-led coalition base dined among decorative paper snowmen, Christmas trees, and Santa Clauses, while underneath them, their weapons temporarily rest, tucked beneath their seats. Spanish soldiers were on guard outside the high-security compound at the Kabul International Airport.
Yeah, I feel a little homesick. I wish I could, be with family and friends. It's a time of the year where everybody gets together, enjoys being together pretty much.
American troops are serving their 12th Christmas in Afghanistan this year, with approximately 66,000 troops currently serving in Afghanistan. Kabul International Airport is home to multinational NATO country members who are serving under the NATO banner in Afghanistan. NATO troops remain committed to helping Afghan forces assume full responsibility for the country's security after 2014.
And a good job those guys, and women and men over there doing.
Yes, yeah, absolutely. Nice meal.
Very well.
Well, the community of Newtown, Connecticut is still healing over its elementary school massacre. There's been an outpouring of messages of support and sorrow as the town observes Christmas.
It's been 10 days after the elementary school massacre that claimed the lives of 20 first graders and 6 teachers and administrators. At the town hall, strangers delivered hundreds of handmade cards and snowflakes collected as they toured the state in a chartered bus. The town hall has become a gathering point for those dropping off donations and in need of a place to congregate and find comfort in one another. Paula Pike said her thoughts are with all the parents who lost a child.
How do you get through Christmas? What happens if that next weekend was that Saturday was the day they were going to take him to see Santa? Or what happens if the last Saturday was the day you took him to see Santa, and that's the last picture you have?
Newtown resident Steve Fisher says he doesn't think the town will ever really get over it.
I don't think this will ever go away. We'll just somehow move on and just remember all these little kids and the great teachers that were there to support them.
The attack has galvanized the gun control debate in the United States, where the Constitution protects possession of firearms. President Barack Obama is expected to propose steps next month to tighten gun laws. Wayne LaPierre, the head of the hugely influential U.S. gun lobby, the NRA, defended his call for armed guards in all schools, despite withering criticism of the group's response to the Newtown massacre.
Well, India has agreed to buy dozens of Russian military helicopters and kits for the assembly of dozens of jets at a summit in New Delhi. Leaders of both countries reaffirmed their commitment to a strategic partnership.
India agreed to buy dozens of Russian military helicopters and kits for the assembly of Sukhoi jets at a summit in New Delhi today, where the leaders of both countries reaffirmed their commitment to a strategic partnership. Russia will sell India 71 military helicopters worth $1.3 billion, as well as technological kits worth $1.6 billion to assemble 42 fighter jets. India's foreign ministry said the original deal for these jets was agreed to last year.
Our science and technology cooperation remains robust. President Putin and I welcome the operationalization of the India-Russia Joint Science and Technology Centers in India and Russia, which can assist the development and commercialization of promising technologies, including the nanotechnology, biomedicine, and supercomputing. I particularly welcome the agreement on cooperation in using the GLONASS satellite navigation system that has just been signed.
India, traditionally one of Moscow's top arms clients, said the two sides would also set up a joint venture to manufacture Russian-model helicopters and a $2 billion fund to invest in trade and economic cooperation projects. Russian President Vladimir Putin is visiting India to seal the deal on the sales. Putin's one-day trip, his first to India since he started a new Kremlin 6-year term in May, underlines Russia's interest in India, long a regional ally and now a partner in the BRICS group of emerging market nations. The volume of Russia's bilateral trade with India was expected to reach a record $10 billion this year, after declining due to the global financial crisis, and set a target of doubling that to $20 billion by 2015.
All right, now we're going to take a look at newspapers all around the world with Brian Jenkins. He's over at Live Touch, including why Richard Branson may soon be donning a skirt.
That's right. He might be bringing you blankets on your airplane. I'll tell you why in just a second. We'll start you off with a look at the Moscow Times and, of course, that big news over in that neck of the woods. The Kremlin and India strike a big weapons deal. We told you about it. India buying $2.9 billion worth of fighter jets, helicopters, military technology. A Merry Christmas for Russian weapons manufacturers. Here's an interesting story below the ornament there. Russian language textbooks stir controversy. A popular book called Let's Go contains passages extolling the virtues of drug use and crime, creating what some call a moronic impression of Russians. Russian lawmakers want that book banned. We'll see if they're successful. In the Hindu, over in India, crackdown mutes protests. Now, these protests have been going on for weeks in the aftermath of a gang rape of a student on a local train. Major roads and metro stations remain shut down because of those protests, but police have contained the massive protests. Again, those crowds very angry. They want safer public passage for women and justice for victims of sexual assault. Ironically, women's groups there oppose the death penalty. There you see the protest right above the headline. And even as a public chorus has risen in favor of using the death penalty as a deterrent to rape, most women say that won't be the case and they don't want the death penalty applied. Over in the Bali Times, in Bali, here's an interesting story. Customs officers foil an attempt to smuggle drugs into Bali, a holiday attempt by a German man who was arrested for swallowing 22 capsules of hashish and inserting other capsules into body orifices. He'll be spending the holidays and many more days behind bars. On that same front page, British billionaire Richard Branson, as Francesca alluded to, will become an Air Asia stewardess, performing duties serving passengers. As a result of losing a bet with airline founders at a local Grand Prix, he'll be bringing the peanuts. And of course, pictures of Christmas celebrations in the China Daily. There we go. Some pictures there of Christmas celebrations. At the same time, a draft law to protect personal privacy is in the works. New legislation designed to help web users protect privacy. Supporters say theft and illegal trading of information must be checked. And finally, the cold creating big business. Bed warmers are a hot item in the cold climate. People are bypassing electric heaters and electric blankets for old-fashioned bed warmers. Bronze pots that can be filled with hot water, then sealed. They are doing a roaring trade. And folks are also lining up at spring resorts to use hot springs, anything that's cheap to use to stay warm. That's what's happening across the world. Back to you, Francesca.
I'm all right with those kind of warmers as long as chamber pots don't make a comeback. We're good.
That's a little old school.
Hey, I'm telling you, these copper kettles are old school too. All right, when we come back to Ebru today, 2 beloved character actors have passed away. We'll take a look at their iconic careers. And 11 children killed on Monday in China after a minivan plunges right into a pond. And over to Mexico City, the government there has come up with a successful way to get people to turn in their guns. We'll be right back with more Ebru today. Welcome back to Ebru today on this Christmas morning. Well, American pop culture has lost 2 of its most recognizable character actors. Jack Klugman, best known as the messy sports writer, Oscar Madison in TV's The Odd Couple, died Monday, December 24th at the age of 90.
Yes, we remember his long career. And Charles Durning from such movies as Tootsie and The Sting also passed away yesterday at the age of 89. Erin Ade takes a look at their lives and careers.
Absolutely, guys. 2 very, very missed actors that were in a lot of plays and theater as well. Now, Jack Klugman was the prolific, craggy-faced character actor and regular guy who was loved by millions on The Odd Couple and Quincy M.E. Now, Durning, on the other hand, graced the silver screen in the Muppets movie and as Chief Brandon in Dick Tracy. They will both be remembered and missed on this Christmas Day.
Were you in the room when the father was killed? This fighting.
Jack Klugman, who lost his voice to throat cancer in the 1980s and trained himself to speak again, died with his wife by his side. He apparently died suddenly on Monday, and family members were not sure of the exact cause. The son of Russian Jewish immigrants, he was born in Philadelphia and began his acting career in college drama at the Carnegie Institute of Technology. After serving in the Army during World War II, he went on to summer stock and off-Broadway, rooming with fellow actor Charles Bronson as they both looked for paying jobs. Klugman made his Broadway debut in 1952 in a revival of Golden Boy and received a Tony nomination for Gypsy. His film credits include Sidney Lumet's 12 Angry Men and Blake Edwards' Days of Wine and Roses. An early television highlight was appearing with Humphrey Bogart in a production of The Petrified Forest. Charles Durning, on the other hand, was born into poverty in New York. Durning was one of the first U.S. soldiers on Omaha Beach during World War II's D-Day invasion. He was his unit's lone survivor of a Nazi machine gun ambush and later survived a German massacre of American POWs. Durning said his memory of killing an attacking soldier in hand-to-hand combat never left him. Durning received numerous Oscar, Tony, and Emmy Award nominations. He's best known for his performances in The Sting, Dog Day Afternoon, The Muppet Movie, and Tootsie, among many others. 2 amazing talents who will surely be missed and entertain generations as well.
They certainly have. I remember Jack Klugman as a kid watching the Twilight Zone.
There you go.
Yeah.
Twilight Zone always scared me.
Yeah, well, that too, but 90 years apiece pretty much, 89 and 90.
That's
decades in the business. Thanks so much, Erin.
No problem.
Well, sad news this morning from China. 11 children were killed on Monday after a minivan plunged right into a pond in East China's Jiangxi province. 15 kindergartners, 1 teacher, and a driver were all in the van when the accident happened. Local authorities say the 11 children killed were 8 boys and 3 girls, just 4 to 6 years old. 4 other children were also injured, but they are listed in stable condition. Rescuers pumped out pond water 3 to 4 meters deep until late on Monday to make sure there were no other victims. A man who lives nearby saw the whole thing happen. He rushed right to the pond barefoot and paddled a boat to the sinking vehicle. He then managed to save 2 children and a teacher through one of the van's windows. Police have detained the driver of that van for questioning.
Well, Mexico City begins a new program offering cash, toys, and even computer equipment in exchange for guns in a neighborhood where a 10-year-old boy was killed by a stray bullet at a movie theater. The program is called For Your Family Voluntary Disarmament. It allows people to turn in their weapons anonymously without being charged with illegal possession. Borough President Jesus Valencia tweeted on Monday that residents had already returned 27 rifles and 65 pistols. Officials say they expect to collect up to 1,800 weapons by the end of 2013. Children can also exchange toy guns for non-violent toys. The first phase of the program began yesterday and runs through December 31st of this year. The second phase will run through 2013 and will be administered in Mexico City's 16 boroughs.
Well, to South Africa now. They have stepped up safety measures at the southwestern False Bay beaches in an effort to prevent potential shark attacks.
We keep the humans safe, and we also keep sharks safe as well. Because once there is a shark attack, you get people that will still want to go out and kill sharks. So if you try and prevent shark attacks, that doesn't happen.
A total of 12 great white sharks were spotted in the off the shore of the Seaside Resort over the weekend, which put beachgoers on alert. The Shark Spotters program, launched December 15th, now covers 8 beaches around the False Bay. Each time a shark is spotted, a siren sounds and a white flag sporting a black shark is raised to alert all of those in the water. Swimmers are not allowed back in the sea until an all-clear signal is given. Although the odds of a shark attack remain extremely low, beachgoers should take notice of recent shark sightings and seek advice from either a shark spotter or a lifeguard.
Now, the latest news out of Hollywood, The Hobbit retains its box office crown for the second week, overpowering Tom Cruise's latest film, Jack Reacher.
The dwarfs and elves of The Hobbit overpowered Tom Cruise to take the box office title for a second time, grabbing $37.5 million in U.S. and Canadian ticket sales over the weekend. The Hobbit is the first of 3 films based on the classic novel set in the fantasy world of Middle-earth. The films are prequels to the blockbuster Lord of the Rings franchise that brought in box office gold a decade ago. Cruise's crime drama, Jack Reacher, a film about a fatal sniper attack, landed in second place with $15.5 million. Over the weekend, Jack Reacher debuted just days after the Newtown, Connecticut school shooting sparked a new debate about the impact of movie violence. Reacher begins with a sniper killing a handful of seemingly random victims. A red carpet premiere and a screening to promote the $60 million production were postponed after the school shooting tragedy. Before the weekend, the studio had predicted sales of 12 to 15 million. Comedy The Guilt Trip, starring Barbara Streisand and Seth Rogen as a mother and son on a cross-country drive, pulled in $5.5 million over the weekend. And in 5 theaters in New York and Los Angeles, the thriller Zero Dark 30, the film about the hunt for Osama bin Laden, grossed $410,000 in what box office analysts are calling a huge limited release start for the film. The movie, considered an Oscar contender, will expand nationwide on January 11th.
We're still no closer to defeating our enemy.
All right, lots making headlines here in the U.S. of A. We'll check in with Francesca. She's over the Live Touch with what's going on.
Yeah, well, maybe some movies for people later on, but we're going to get to what's in the newspapers first. First, looking at the Houston Chronicle, we start with a very sad story of a police officer and a bystander shot and killed in a deadly confrontation Monday morning. The 21-year-old suspect, who had been pulled over for just a routine traffic stop, was shot during a gunfight with officers. Left dead was this gentleman, 53-year-old veteran of the force, Jimmy Norman. Also wounded was the owner of a nearby body shop, who had come out to see what was going on. You can see again another example of gun violence in this country, this time in Texas. Over to the Dallas Morning News now. We're going to go over to here, and we're looking over at the fiscal cliff. The Dallas Morning News reports that some likely budget options are emerging on that fiscal cliff. President Obama and Congress will return to Washington later this week, and still nobody really knows whether they are going to reach an agreement. Independent Senator from Connecticut Joe Lieberman says that he feels like they will still be debating the issue on New Year's Eve. It is speculated there could be 4 outcomes: no deal at all, the elusive big deal, consideration of legislation that one chamber's already passed, or a small time-buying agreement that would require further talks. If no changes are adopted, Bush-era income tax cuts will expire at the end of the year. On January 2nd, about $10 billion in automatic spending cuts would take effect, half of those in defense spending alone. To the Midwest and Chicago now, we will look over here to potential presidential library. The Chicago Tribune reports the city is already considering having Mr. Obama's library built there in an area near the South Lakefront. Every president since Herbert Hoover has established an archive in his home state to house papers from his White House tenure. That means the race could come down to Chicago, where Obama calls home when not in the White House, and Honolulu, where he was born. And to the Pacific Northwest now and the Seattle Times. My favorite picture of the day. I'm a big fan of puppets. From despair to hope, detailing the Atlantic Street Shelter, which helps families who have endured war and poverty. They cater to children and help make them puppets for puppet shows as part of their family program there, as you can see right here in the picture. Some really gorgeous puppets. The center is a century old and offers mental health counseling as well for people affected by post-traumatic stress disorder, as well as academic help for students. And we finish up on the West Coast as well with this little cutie pie over here. It is Christmas today after all, so go ahead and take a bow like she is. Not a bow, but a bow. A Christmas tree is a luxury if you can't pay the rent, though, so where do you get one? Well, that's why families like this little girl's were thrilled to receive a Christmas tree from the Delancey Street Foundation, which gives away the trees left on its 6 LA lots. It's certainly not really Christmas without a Christmas tree, so we're glad that these kids could enjoy all the good cheer, just like Nora Carvey there. She's 5 years old, and I even put one up this year in my little apartment in New York City. So that's quite a feat for me.
Yeah, get a little one?
Yeah, it wasn't little, but it was certainly little, like, yeah, littler than I had ever had. But
joining in the celebration.
Hey, as long as it works, I'm happy, you know, it's a real life tree.
Good for you. All right, coming up, we'll show you the sights and sounds from Christmas celebrations around the world. That's coming up.
Welcome back to Every Today. Well, people hit hard by Hurricane Sandy here in New Jersey are getting into the Christmas spirit despite their overwhelming losses.
Well, that they are. Volunteers are bringing a helping hand and a little Christmas cheer.
This Christmas tree is the surest sign that Union Beach hasn't given up hope after Hurricane Sandy. It was found in the wreckage of the storm and has been adopted by locals since. This house has become another poignant symbol of the wrath the storm wrought. 62 homes are simply gone, ripped up and carried off by Sandy. Some 200 others are uninhabitable, and many more were badly flooded. Volunteers from New Jersey and around the country are working to save the homes that remain, and during the holidays, they're spending long hours trying to give residents reason for cheer. This group is from a church in Maryland.
Right now, everyone's timeline is to try to get something ready for Christmas. So the one home, we just got finished putting flooring down, and she said, I just want to have a tree for my kids. And one of the teams is working on the drywall, and the other team is actually putting together their Christmas tree right now. That's part of their project.
The volunteer corps includes college students who have committed part of their holiday break to helping with cleanup.
We love to work hard. We were lifting like heavy stuff earlier today, and if anything that we can do, if this is what we can do to show love, then this is what we're going to do to show love.
At a firehouse, a makeshift Christmas shop is full of donated items being given out for free, presents for residents who might not be able to afford Christmas otherwise. And there's a special visitor for children, too.
Oh, I got another one. Oh, I'm the luckiest guy in the world. Oh, thank you so much.
Elizabeth Carbo's husband is a volunteer firefighter who spent the night of the storm making rescues. Now, as she waits for insurance payments to repair her home, others are returning the favor.
You know, people coming and knocking on the door just saying, hey, what can I do to help, you know? So it's been pretty awesome.
Volunteers know they can't replace what some families here have lost, but their efforts are making the season a little brighter.
As Christmas celebrations get underway around the world, we take a 60-second look at how they unfold.
In Iraq, dozens of families arrived for the Christmas morning service at the Virgin Mary Church in Baghdad. Worshippers were searched by armed police before they were allowed to enter the church. In Russia Monday, Muscovites celebrated with a parade for Father Frost in Gorky Park. After greeting revelers, Father Frost boarded a double-decker bus to tour around the city. Christmas masses and celebrations were held at several churches in Istanbul. At the Church of St. Antoine, a large crowd attended a evening mass service illuminated by Christmas trees covered in blue lights. In Syria, the streets of Damascus were empty. There were no lights. Christmas Eve Mass was held in churches throughout the city at 5 p.m. and not at midnight for security reasons. In Australia, Father Christmas delivered presents to young patients at Brisbane's Royal Children's Hospital. Hundreds of volunteers handed out free Christmas meals to more than 600 homeless, elderly, and needy people. Well, when it comes to winter activities in New York City, ice skating at Rockefeller Center is certainly one that tops the list. Though, as Ed Rosanna Berry reports, the rink's history is quite a bit more fascinating than you might originally suspect, as it all kind of happened by accident.
Woo! One of the best places to be in New York City over the holiday season is on ice.
Since 1936, the Rockefeller Center Ice Rink has been the quintessential New York City winter destination. Originally created by the Rockefeller family as a temporary attraction, it is now a national historic landmark and top tourist destination for families around the world.
The owners, the Rockefellers, were looking for something to draw people to the middle concourse area here. And they brought in an architect from Cleveland 1 year in the late 30s, and he built a temporary ice skating rink. And it was such a huge draw. That's how it all began.
For those who want the ultimate Rock Center rink experience, there are delicious restaurants like the Sea Grill and Rock Center Cafe, both overlooking the rink. And now they're offering a new VIP express skating option.
We have the VIP Lounge, which is a skip-the-line program where people can make reservations on our website, www.therinkatrockcenter.com.
The rink draws people out on the ice for all different occasions. With 30 rocks soaring 850 feet above you, the 8-ton cast iron Greek god of Prometheus, and 200 international flags surrounding you, what better backdrop to celebrate birthdays and engagements? Sometimes the rink holds up to 6 engagements a day.
First time in New York, first time at the Rockefeller.
Yeah, we love it. We don't really want to leave, but unfortunately we have to.
So you had to come skate? Definitely. It's like Christmas in a can here.
Top of the list. There's nothing more festive than this.
It's the perfect place for first-time skaters to practice the art of falling, and a favorite spot for skating aficionados who like to show off their skills for a captive audience. Because at Rock Center, if you are old enough to walk, you are old enough to skate.
But it's nothing like skating here, just the ambiance, the feeling, you know. I'm a performer by heart, and I love this. I love the people watching me, and you know, it's nothing like skating by the tree, and it's a beautiful place. I look forward to it every year. I'm a season pass member anyway.
As you can see, people from all over the world love to spend a day on ice at the historic Rockefeller Ice Rink. We've all fallen a couple of times, but hey, that's life. You just get up and keep on skating. Happy holidays. I am Anna Berry for Ebru News.
And there she goes. In other news, the United Arab Emirates is putting a spotlight on traditional Islamic artwork with an arts festival that uses modern techniques to highlight ancient practices.
Traditional Islamic art, nearly 1,500 years old, is being presented at the 15th Islamic Arts Festival held in Sharjah, United Arab Emirates. This year's works give visitors a refreshed point of view while maintaining the essence of traditional Islamic culture. Depending on which direction the light shines on this wooden structure, it projects different patterns onto the wall. The projection of clutter on a desk shows scenes of an old mosque and modern high-rises with lights from different angles. This piece is from Uzbekistan. The artist uses modern light projection technique to show traditional Islamic patterns. The rings on exhibit at the festival are also eye-catching. Figures of Istanbul's landmark blue mosques and the Hagia Sophia can be clearly seen on the ring settings. The calligraphic works and painting are no less impressive at the festival. Flying birds, dancing peacocks, and ancient Arabic words all give an air of grandeur that differs from other arts. The festival will continue until January 12th.
I'm taking some of those baubles.
Yeah, it would be nice. Well, it is Christmas Day all over the world.
And here are some of the sights and sounds of some of the celebrations that are going on all around the globe today. Sorry. A lot of lights, a lot of sparkles. Thanks so much for watching Every Today this Christmas morning. We really appreciate it.
Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas to all of you. Have a wonderful day. We'll see you back here tomorrow.